people around us and what we kind of would like from them or what we need from them in that moment of adversity and chaos. And the same again with ourselves. What is your biggest lessons? And if you could split it in them two ways, from other people, what you'd want from them, and from yourself, what have you learnt the most about going through all that?
Biggest thing I learned from myself is that I can overcome anything, and I fully believe that. Like, having gone through what I went through, again, and people go through a lot worse, but again, it's all relative, isn't it? So it's not like...
Your worst day is your worst day.
Welcome to the Prime Life Project podcast, a place to help you unlock your full potential, both mentally and physically, to become the best version of you.
Welcome back to an episode of the Prime Life Project podcast, a place to help you both mentally and physically become the best version of you. Today, I've got Mr. Mikey Markham back in the studio. How are we?
Mate, I'm buzzing to be back. It feels real. It feels proper. I'm here.
Well, it feels real. I was going to say, we're not in the Matrix anymore. After our conversation yesterday on the radio, where you were talking about shrooms and hallucinating and David talking about flying, I was thinking, well, like, yeah, we're alive, we're here. How's life been treating you?
Ooh, mate. Well, I've not. How long does it go since I've been on this podcast?
Mate, a while. I think probably 2 months.
2 months, I reckon.
Have you been on? I don't think you've been on this year.
Nearly 3.
Yeah, I'll get Kate to check, but I think you've been on this year.
I'll pop it up as well.
Yeah, there we go.
Mikey editing later, remember that?
future self.
Yeah. Mate, it's been turbulent. It's been really hard. Had a business scare, had a family dispute, and that all erupted. So a lot of pain, a lot of change, and now we're on the sort of the up and the good trajectory from it. And that's where we're going with today's chat a little bit, about dealing with adversity and knowing you can come out the other side of it. Because was it like probably a few months before I went through it, you went through it, didn't you?
Yeah.
And then I was sort of just trying to be there and be a consistent through your life, because while everything's up in the air and rambles, you're like, where can I go for consistency? So needing them pillars in your life at times, and not trying to fix everything and change it all, but just be there. And then I sort of had this guilt where, I feel quite chill at the minute and everything's in order. And then I went through my bit and you were my consistency. So it's been quite interesting how quick that happened.
Yeah, it's interesting how things can turn around so quickly. But I think the interesting, it's bizarre we're talking about this because, again, people don't know. We've got three formats of the show now. We've got me and Mikey where we talk, and basically just real general chit chat where we just basically do this. Mikey comes in, sets up, and literally 5 minutes before we start talking, we're like, what are we talking about?
It was 5 seconds.
5 seconds. It literally was like 3, 2, 1. Wait, what are we talking about? Oh yeah, and then we go. So there's no sort of planning with this. Me and Mikey just go back and forth. We've then got the normal full episodes where obviously I interview guests, and then you've got full episodes with me where I basically teach and educate, and then you've also got the Thursday Thoughts, which is basically a 10-15 minute me thinking about whatever I'm thinking about for that day that I think is going to add some value to people. So again, when Mikey comes in, we just literally go all over the shop with stuff like this. And it's bizarre that we're talking about this because 2 weeks ago, last week actually, I basically spoke to my clients about how I was struggling last year. So when I was going through all my adversity, obviously no one would have known about it. However, there would have been some times I wasn't necessarily showing up as the best version of me. And although it wasn't necessarily my client's business to know that, actually now coming out the other side, there's some real deep lessons in that basically I wanted to pass on to my clients, because I don't want them ever to see me as this invincible person that doesn't go through some stuff. And what actually happened is, like 3 check-ins before, I basically had like 3 or 4 people say to me like, oh yeah, I forgot that you're human. Oh yeah, I didn't realise you struggled, because I was sharing some experiences. And I thought, well, that's not good, because I don't ever want my clients to see me as like this superhuman person that's always perfect.
Speaking from an elitist position.
Exactly, because that's never the thing. It's like the only reason I can talk on these things is because I've been through some stuff. Yeah. And I kind of realised, because I basically kept it to myself to show up, like you're saying, that consistency, people depended on me, people relied on me, so I had to show up as myself, as Mr. Consistent, because they're not paying me to hear about my problems, they're basically paying me to help them, guide them through their struggles and their journey. But then actually the flip side of that was, I've been giving them all this advice and helping them through this stuff without actually saying, well, the reason why I can give such good advice is because I've been through all of these things. And I kind of did it. Remember that my story, you guys got it a while ago as well. That was the first part there when my clients really started to say, oh wow, like he's actually gone through some stuff. However, I hadn't spoken about the stuff I'd literally gone through last year, which is so recent, to basically just show them where you are on your journey. Yeah. At any point, things can just sort of switch, which, well, that's a long answer to what you said there, but you just sort of triggered me there saying like that short thing, it can change so quickly that you seem to be on a really good path, really good trajectory, and then life just throws you a curveball to be like, oh yeah, you think you've completed this level? Well,
Mate.
before you go up to the next level, is this curveball? Like there's something like the boss you got to beat, isn't it? On the computer games, whatever it is. Like you complete this level, it's amazing. You think it's all gravy, and then you get this big bad boss. It's like right, complete this until you can go to the next level. And that's kind of how it feels, because like you're doing now, you've got yourself to another level. Again, I've got myself to another level. My content's improved. Your business has improved. Everything improves once you go through that adversity.
And wisely on Tekken or those sort of games, the beforehand, you have to learn certain tools and techniques and certain buttons that work to beat that boss. And then it goes into the next stage, and then you learn a new superpower, and it's prepping you all in time for this other boss, isn't it? I've got to ask, from what you said there, because in your industry, having people rely on you a lot of the time, do you forget then to put yourself first at times? And then when you're putting so much out there for other people and that energy, is there a moment where you've completely just put yourself last to the point of not looking after yourself?
Well, that's actually the opposite of what I did. So I put them first. So I put me first so I could put them.
So you did...
No, I put me first so I could then put them first. That makes sense.
Yeah,
a bit bizarre,
yeah.
Because like... So initially, I was very, very real, raw and honest about it. I said to them, when I was doing the check-ins sometimes, I'll do 3 check-ins and I'd go and nap for 10 minutes.
Yeah, I get
do
you.
3 check-ins, nap for 10 minutes. 3 check-ins, nap for 10 minutes, just to get through the day. So I was putting myself first. No, right, what do I need?
But is that a new part of your life? Have you done the polar to that before? And that's why you realise this time, I need to look after myself if you want me there for you?
Yeah, I've not necessarily done it with clients. I say, actually, no, that's a lie. Because I'm thinking, this sounds bizarre. I've kind of got 2 parts of my life. I've got post-depression and pre-depression.
Yeah.
So pre-depression, yes, 100%. Like, to the point where it's interesting. I had to write an article about my journey, and I was talking about the how I was struggling, and it then took me back. And when you're trying to think about how you were it's the first time I really spoke about it with feeling. Yeah. Because when I talk about it now, I don't talk about it. I don't talk about any... I could talk about it like the weather. It's just the thing is, I've got no emotion behind it. Yeah, I can talk about how bad I was, and it doesn't affect me. But to actually write it, it's different to talking about it. So I had to really try and describe how I was feeling, and then I had to take myself back to that place. And I just remember how I was feeling. And again, one of the biggest things was that when I was doing clients and seeing them one-to-one, that I had this burning rage of anger inside me. There was like, this client is keeping you from sleeping. And I can, honestly, it was so vivid, like I could take myself back and actually feel it.
Wow.
But then I was then not putting myself first because I wanted to put the client first and the client's needs, and I'd show up, but then in not doing that, I would show up half-heartedly. I clearly wasn't present with my client, clearly wasn't energetic, clearly wasn't motivational, clearly wasn't anything that a one-to-one personal trainer should be.
Yeah.
So subsequently, I destroyed my own business because clients left me. And then I would then be like, oh, the client's this, the client... Nothing to do with the client, it was me. I was the problem, because who wants to train with a personal trainer, really, that wants to be asleep, doesn't want to be there, and is really struggling to that level, but without being honest and open about it and not knowing, they just completely change their personality. It's like me coming in one day and being a completely different person, and constantly doing that. You're going to think, well, your energy's horrific. Like, why would I want to be working with you? That's kind of how it was. But now, post-depression and all the stuff that I learned, I realised that in order for me to show up, I have to put myself first to then put the client first. Yeah. So... again, getting back to check-ins when I could, rather than, not check-ins, messages when I could. So again, rather than feeling the pressure, and I do this now, there's like a boundary that I've put, like I don't message clients back straight away. There's a boundary there. Like they message me through the app that I've got. Again, some of them have got my private number, but before I would literally be rushing to message them back straight away. Yeah. But then it knocks me off what I'm doing. So if I'm in the middle of reading a book and a client texts me, and then look at that, that's then...
You're too accessible, aren't you?
Exactly, and that's the problem. But then I'm not serving the client because I'm not teaching them to learn to learn for themselves, because most of the time they don't need a response straight away, and most of the time what happens is they figure it out themselves, unless it's urgent and I'm like, just call me. But when does that ever happen? Rarely. Like maybe once a month I get a call from a client, but most of the time they can figure it out themselves, and it allows me to then show up and do what I'm doing, like again helping other people, doing the podcast, like doing all the behind the scenes stuff, so I can then again show up better for them. Does that make sense? So the biggest thing for me is that I now know what I need to do to function optimally. Yeah. And I kind of work around there. And I understand that my clients need me to be a certain thing. They don't need me to be this super accessible, they're 24/7. Like that all they need me to do is just look after myself so I can then help them as and when needed.
So another question, because that's a deep self-awareness of what you're showcasing there, and you've learned a lot about yourself. But in that time of adversity as well, what were you looking for other people? Because obviously you've got some awesome people in your life as well that helped sail that boat, or at least just be on the deck and doing what you needed for that. And you had the ship. But what did you want from other people in that time?
Well, that's interesting as well, because the only two people that knew, and this is what I said to the clients, I said the only two people that knew how bad I was struggling was you and Katie.
Yeah.
The only two people that really knew. My coaches knew I was struggling a bit, because I was open and honest with that. But to the actual depths was really you and Katie. And
Good pun there.
but the only thing really that I needed from people, and this is an interesting thing, 'cause I haven't really thought about it, was belief.
Yeah,
because
good shout.
when you're struggling and you're doubting yourself, and then you're expressing yourself, first of all, it's having the person to actually listen and genuinely listen, and etc., etc., but then actually believing in you still. So when I was starting to doubt myself, you guys still believed in me,
Yeah.
and my coaches still believed in me. So that's like, well, I don't believe in myself, so I'll borrow your belief until I start to believe in myself again. And I think that's a real powerful thing. I hadn't really thought about that, but that's genuinely what it was. It was that belief of like, well, you're still showing up, you're still here.
Yeah.
Like, Casey's also do behind the scenes, so she sees how hard I'm still working. She still believes that I can do my job. My coaches are still there being like, well, we still back you, like we've left with you, so we still believe in you. And although no one actually said that, those words, didn't need to be
Showcased.
said. Yeah, does that make sense? And it's like, that makes you feel a certain way of like, oh wow. And that's an interesting thing, I think, when people are struggling and they've kind of lost themselves or lost their way a little bit, to have someone actually believe. You know what it's like when you go to schools and you've got the quote unquote naughty kids. I don't even like labelling them that, but the trouble kids. It's because people don't believe in them. They've stopped believing in them.
Yeah.
They've labelled them as naughty or mischievous or whatever it is, and they've stopped really trying. Oh, this is what they are. But as soon as you go in and you just believe in these kids, just show them a little bit of, no, I can see you're still good. It changes.
And that's like, as a metaphor, we were stood here, and every time you go to turn around, it's like, no, you're all right, keep going. We're not pushing you there. It was just a reminder. Whereas those kids, they go to turn around, there's no one there, so they just walk back.
Exactly. That's
Yeah.
real metaphor. Yeah. So
That felt good for saying it.
Yeah, no, but that's exactly what it is. And it's like you then, because it'd been really easy for me in that time, really easy for me to go into a dark place.
Yeah.
And this is what I said before, but when I was depressed, it was different because I wasn't aware of what was going on. So it was almost easier.
Yeah.
I was feeling the pain, but I didn't understand. So yesterday we spoke about the radio, didn't we? I said about ignorance. Like, people don't really understand what's going on, so they can't really articulate it or anything like that.
Yeah.
They just know they're feeling pain and not feeling great. This time round, I was very aware of everything that I was feeling and knowing what I was feeling, etc. All the stuff I knew, and that kind of made it worse.
Yeah.
Because it was that bad. I was like, oh, and I could see what was going on, but I still couldn't stop it.
Yeah.
It was good because it gave me some sort of control, but it gave me control in not having control, if that makes sense. I understood what was going on,
Yeah.
but it meant I felt it even worse. I didn't feel the physical pain, but mentally I felt the pain more. Does this make sense?
I completely get you.
It was such a bizarre concept.
There'll be some people that resonate with that.
Because before I felt the physical pain, but mentally I couldn't really understand what was going on. And this time I didn't necessarily feel the physical, it was all mental. Like, I understood exactly what was going on. And even though I was doing all the stuff I know I needed to do to get myself feeling good again, I even said I play on the PlayStation for sometimes 5 hours a day.
Yeah.
But I was doing the stuff I still needed to do.
Yes.
Nothing in my business suffered. Every single day I ticked off the things I needed to do. Even just 3 things. Got to do this, got to do this, got to do this. Just to hold my business steady. So no one would have suffered from it. I just wasn't able to go above and beyond. I was very well aware my cup has got so many holes in it. I'll give what I can, but I can't go above and beyond.
And in that moment, it probably felt right to have an escapism. So that was something else that you clearly needed in your life in that moment.
I can't really describe it any other way, is that I felt like young Daniel needed to play on computer games.
Yeah.
And it's the only thing I needed, mate. It's the only thing I can describe. And like, I look back at myself like, I'm really struggling right now.
Yeah.
What do I need to do? What do I love doing? Instead of talking schools, like,
There's a deep self-awareness again.
What do I need? What makes me happy? I was like, well, I can't play football anymore because I've bust my shoulder.
Yeah.
Computer games.
Even though we should have started 5-a-side team, I really want to.
David Eames star forward. But then I was like, well, what do I really want to do? It's like computer games. And then I remember one of the guys from the gym I was at, he basically kept going on about this Ghost of Tsushima game, basically like an open world samurai game. And I went, well, do you know what? Let's go do that. And
I love watching you playing that.
Because it's so open world, it meant I could get lost in it. And that is what I needed to do. I needed to not be here,
mate.
And rather than napping and going to another place, I was like, I can physically be here and I can get my kicks. And it made me so. It genuinely sounds bizarre, but that
my
game,
inspiration from you, dude. Honestly, like I was in that world at that time, and I was still business heavy and ready to go with that because I was in that space. And my balance is having chaos and then having complete chill and then chaos again. I like that balance, and that's what I know about myself. But I not played games for ages. And then when I was sat with you and I'm editing and you're just enjoying yourself playing your game because you've done all the stuff you needed to do.
What did I say? And you said you just played the game. Said I've done everything I needed to do.
Yeah.
So I had done it. I'd literally forced myself to do it.
Yeah.
I then forced myself to do a podcast, which it genuinely would have been forced.
Yeah.
I cannot express how much I love doing podcasts.
Yeah.
Love it. But
in those times
when I'm doing it, I was fine because again, I'm not like right now. I'm not thinking. I'm just talking. So it's really liberating. But then after, I was like, I'm done now. I'm done for the day. I can't do anything else. Computer games to just.
But mate, I've now through my adversity, I got the Xbox X. I'm sorry for all those PS5 goers out there, but I got Hogwarts Legacy, and 5-6 hours sometimes. But I ticked off everything I needed to do, so I've definitely took some inspiration there, and it felt so right at the time that I reflected. Mikey, for that year, you pushed yourself a stupid amount. Don't feel guilt or shame in this moment. Just go through it unapologetically, but make sure you tick off all those things. Am I being a good partner? Am I holding up the business enough? Am I being really neglectful? And if you can answer some thoughtful questions along the way, and you can answer them
honest.
honestly.
Yeah, that's the one.
We think the same thing, man.
I know where you're going with this.
And answer them honestly, then go ahead with it, because that escapism is something really beautiful to bring along for the ride a lot of the time.
I think the biggest thing with we both touched on it is the honesty, because sometimes we can convince ourselves we're doing. But here's the thing: the question that you asked yourself was, have I done enough, like just to keep it going? Because sometimes, like if you're going hard for a year, and this is the thing for me, and again, very similar, because for a year, almost a year and a half, maybe 2 years, with what I was doing, I'd gone hard in business, and what I created was immense. Yeah. And then to have it like you did, you've gone hard for a year, and then to have it taken away through no fault of your own, that's a hard pill to swallow. And then it's like, that's then not the time to push and build the business. Yeah, man. That's the time when you've got to hold the ship steady, get yourself into a good place, and then go again. So this thing's not then asking yourself at that time. At that time, it's not asking yourself the question, have I grown my business today? Because that's unnecessary pressure and stress on yourself that you can't handle. And then the answer is going to be no, and then it's going to lead you into a negative spiral. Have I done enough today? Have I done everything I needed to do? Yeah, cool. Turn off for a bit. Yeah. And that's what it is. And it's a bizarre thing, because what happened with that game, after I've completed it, I felt like a sense of completion within myself, bizarrely. And then but it's literally, it took me the same amount of time to complete that game as it did for me to go through what I was feeling. And once I finished the game, I was like, I'm done now. I'm ready.
No
and then I went
such
back
thing
to life.
as consequences, dude.
And I just went back to life. That was it.
Like,
I happily, I had the funds. I could have bought another game. I was like, I even looked at another game, but it didn't feel right. I was just like, I'm ready now, because I'm not the kind of person that sits and plays 5 hours on a computer game. That's not me. I'm the kind of person.
Well, you went with feeling that. Oh, I love that.
I love work. I literally love my job. It doesn't seem like work. I love it. I love like exploring stuff. I love learning. I love studying. Like, I'm literally almost obsessed with it. So for me to be doing the other stuff, I clearly needed it. But at that point, I completed the game. I was like, no, it's time to go back to what you need to do now.
And you give yourself that time, though, to reflect on that. Some people act so unconsciously, and they do what they need to do in that time, but then they don't have the questions and the reflection afterwards. So then they'll just go into that habit and stick to that when it's probably not serving them and not feeling right. So
it's always in life, though. It's like, I'll always ask myself, have I done the right thing? And like, do you know when I say something?
Yeah, introspection.
Like, and even the radio yesterday. And like we said, like when David called us out on using those words, I was like,
I like that.
I was in that flow state.
Yeah.
So I literally, when David said, "Oh, you said that word," I was like,
didn't know.
I didn't know. And for anyone who wasn't there, the word I said was "should." It wasn't a swear word.
Yeah.
So me and Mike were talking, and basically I said, "Oh, the people should," and then David said, "Oh, the word should is a very like strong word. Like you shouldn't have to do anything. Like
it's too loaded, isn't it?"
Exactly. And I basically was in the flow state talking. So when he said that, I was like, I've got no idea what I just said. So I had no context to it. But that's the interesting thing behind it.
But instead of being butthurt and offended, you actually reflected on it. And that's a big key thing, isn't it, in all of this? When we're talking about adversity and we're talking about really thinking about the character you are, it's always a reflection of it.
Because it's like, what was Dave's intention behind that? Because he did it live on air.
Yeah.
But he didn't do it to mug me off. He did it to then help the audience. Yeah. And then again, help me. He's like, did you realise what you said? Well, no, I didn't. So then highlight it to me. Brilliant. That's the thing for me. Like, I think when you can realise that people are coming from a place of complete authenticity and genuineness, That's what it's all about, and that's all you can ever do in life. All you can do is control your attitude, which are your thoughts, feelings, and your actions, and just know that hopefully they're aligned and you're doing it for the right reasons. Most people, when they say stuff, it's like, why are you saying stuff? Are you saying stuff to be gossip? Or are you saying stuff to try and hurt somebody? Like, was David saying that comment to hurt me and belittle me? No. Cool. So give me that feedback because I want it, and anyone that can actually honestly give me feedback, like, I'll value that, because that's what you want. You don't want yes people in your life. You don't want people that are gonna like we said there before the radio. It's like the Emperor's New Clothes. Like, you don't want to be walking around completely naked and people are like, yeah, your clothes are great. Like, you don't want to be doing and saying stupid stuff that's offensive to people, and you just being basically a dick, and no one telling you and calling you out on it, because that doesn't serve you. No. So in my life, any person that's called me out genuinely on stuff, I'm like, amazing, like, thank you, like, I love it, like,
you've added them into your box.
Well, thank you very much. You care about me. You care about me that much that you're willing to openly and honestly tell me something about myself. Yeah. Cool, like, brilliant, thank you very much. Whether I agree with it or not, the fact that you genuinely think that, amazing. You've made me then actually question and think whether or not there's any truth in it. That's remains to be seen. But you value me enough and what I'm doing, whatever it is, to then say, no, I don't agree with what you've said or what you've done because of this, or you've acted this way, blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, most of the time, 99% of the time, I'm like, you're completely right. And I own it, and then I can move on and reflect and grow. It's amazing. But every now and again,
be curious and be considerate.
Because no one's perfect. No. And I want that. I'm trying to take myself and my companies to another level. Yeah. So I need to grow and level up. I can't be the same person. I can't remember where I was talking about this, but it's like, if you're looking back at the end of the year and you're still the same person, what have you really done with your life? In a year, you haven't grown at all. You haven't developed at all. You've learned no new skills at all in a year. That doesn't sit right with me. Now, again, some people are happy where they are. That's awesome. That's people's prerogative. But for me, that doesn't sit well. Like, that's why I read every day. Because by me reading 10 pages, I have then become a better person. I
think they're good questions to ask, aren't they? Because like yesterday, when we were saying should a lot, it was, a bit too general and a bit too everyone fierce should do this. But I've started to replace it with from my experience. And again, when I was in my darker days and feeling the pain, it was because I wasn't developing as a person at all. And I think it's a good question to ask yourself again, isn't it? If I'm not feeling comfortable right now, what could I be working on? What could I be thinking of?
Or what am I missing?
Yeah, that's a good...
What do I need?
Yeah.
Well, what do I need? And it could be something so simple. Like, we never asked to ask, what do I actually need? And I did an Instagram post on this earlier on, but basically, we've got the power to change our life. We just don't realise that we do. We're not taught that we've got the power. And it went a massive rant about it yesterday. Like, we are not taught about our brains, our minds. And throughout the day, we'll see little glimpses of how amazing we are. We'll get intuition. Or you'll get, I need to text Mikey, or I need to do something. And if something really positive comes of it, that is a power. That's there's something there. Like, you're a powerful person, or you'll be faced with real adversity in a day, and you'll overcome it.
It's a spiritual path, isn't it?
You'll find the strength to do it. Like, something that will happen with your work, and then your child gets ill, and there's like no time but you will find a way, and you then kind of brush it off. It's like, no, look at what you've just done. Like, look at the power that you've drawn upon.
Signs.
Yeah, look at what you have just done. Like, no one else has done that for you. You've done that. And we've always got the ability to come out of any situation. We just don't realise that we can do that. And that, for me, the more books I'm reading, it says it in all the religious texts, essentially, that we've got the power that we need.
Oh, you brought this back round really nicely here.
But it's so interesting that we don't realise that.
Was there anything that you were reading during all this then? Because you're just saying it was in all the texts and that you have got the power. Was there anything of recent that you read, or even an affirmation or a quote that you've seen where it give you that feeling of, I can get through this will pass?
I can't remember what I was reading at that time, but I like to read all the old books. Obviously, they're all behind me. Like, the older the book, the better.
Really?
Like, I don't buy...
Do you like the metaphors within them? Do you like the stories and what they're trying to showcase often?
Yeah, so I love... For me, the best way for me to learn is stories.
Imagery.
That's what, imagery. Yeah. That's why when I go and teach stuff, or whether it's like for my clients, whatever it is, I will use analogies. Yeah. I absolutely love an analogy because I'm a visual person. Yeah. When I present and speak, I know a lot of people say you've got to be a keynote speaker, just talk about presentations. How I best learn is to have a visual with the audio. So, like, I can sit there and watch a keynote speaker and them talking, and that's great. But if they had just one or two slides to go along with what they're saying, I'm like, okay. So, like, when I'm at school and I talk about my depression, I literally got a picture of me really low, and then I'm like, yeah, but here was me modelling. So they can literally see, there's me modelling, but at the same time I look like this was the reality. They can visually see the difference. So it's not me talking about it. Well, here's an image as well to go with that, because you can't really picture me as a model. Well, here's the image. You can't picture me as being depressed. Well, here's the picture. Do you know what I mean? And then they can visually see what's going on with it.
Yeah.
So for me,
Put themselves in that journey.
Exactly. So whenever I'm reading stuff, and again, a lot of the stuff I'm reading, it's I like to, again, I'm not religious, I'm spiritual, but I like to go to religious books to pick out what they're trying to say, because these are thousands of years old. And a lot of the stuff there, it's I was reading something this morning, and basically it was in such old English, I had to then go into Google and translate it into modern day English. I couldn't. Most of the time I can figure out what this thing's saying.
Did it say put your phone down?
Mate, I could not figure out what it was trying to say to me. I was like, what is this thing saying? But so I can't remember what I was reading at the time. But fundamentally, yeah. But fundamentally, it would have been something from like 1890s, 1901, or something along those lines. Mm-hmm. And it was just, for me, it was confirming the fact that, because I've always known, and this is going to sound bizarre, I've never spoken about this before actually. So it goes back to me being depressed and thinking when I was reading the book. So the best times in my life are, I've always just had spurts of inspiration where I was like, I'm just going to do this and just get something done. Like when I wrote my ebook, I literally made a decision, I'm going to do it, get it done. When I first did my course, Lean Queens, literally from doing it to getting it done. From literally saying I'm going to go to America to getting it done, literally 6 months. From literally I'm going to go to America to then recording all the video footage and literally bam, getting it done. And then when I was depressed, this is bizarre. Pretty much every single day before I went to bed and I didn't want to wake up, I kept saying to myself, like, it's going to get better. I'm going to get that spark again. I'm going to get that thing. But I didn't know what it was. I just knew that at some points in my life, I was really inspired, but I had no idea what it was. I didn't even know what the word really inspired meant. And again, it's for me, when I was aligned and doing what I was meant to be doing. I was passionate about something. I had a burning desire. And at that point in my life, I had no desire to do anything. But now in my life, when I've got a desire to do something, it hones in. I'm like, that's a bit of me, that is.
Well, it's because it gives you that belief, and you got to feel the wet to experience the glisten, haven't you? And you love that feeling so much that when the inevitable lull came and you wrote it down, it give you that belief again. It's like, oh, I know how that feeling feels, though. I'm going to wait for that to come back round.
Yeah, that's what it was. But
dark and the light again.
But the problem was I didn't know how to get it back because I didn't know what it was.
Yeah.
So and this is when
that's a lot of people's problem.
I think it made it worse because every day I was like, well, where's it gone?
So it can exacerbate that.
Yeah, and that's what it was. I was doing yesterday about it. It's like I was making it worse because in my head I was like, well, where's it gone?
Yeah.
Like, why do I not have this thing back? Like, have I lost it? So what making sure it's like a magic spark.
That's good conversation there, though. What is your advice for people within that of what we're talking about, where you just want that good to come back again? You're so desperate for it, but you're on the plateau and you're on the down now. How do you ride that out and wait for the wave to come back?
Don't ever try and get yourself back to that.
Yeah,
like,
don't push it.
So if you imagine it again, like we talking about like riding waves. So when you're riding that wave super high and then you crash down, when you crash down, you go underneath the water.
Yeah.
When you're underneath the water, that's not the time to think about riding the wave again.
Yeah.
That's the time to think, I need to get some air and oxygen
and
get myself basically on that level again.
Beautiful.
So basically for me, it's like the biggest problem is when we are feeling down in that certain way, we're so desperate. No, I need to feel this way again. So let's, again, use like a sporting analogy. If you've gone from first place and then next season you're at relegation zone, you're not thinking, I need to be champion again. You're thinking, how on earth do we get out of this relegation zone and just steady the ship mid-table?
Yeah,
because then from mid-table, when you steady the ship, you can then start to build and go up again. And that's basically what people need to realise. When you're feeling low, that's not the time to be craving and I need to feel my best again. It's, what can I do just to get to okay? Because I would take okay over depressed, like not wanting to be here, miserable, like all these negative connotations. I'll take okay over that any day of the week. Because from okay, it's easier to feel good, better, happy. It's easier to slowly build up from there.
And when you're looking way too high up, you're very likely to start comparing and thinking, why are we not Arsenal, Man City at the minute?
Yeah, and that's the same thing with me. Like, why am I not feeling so amazing again?
Yeah.
You're asking yourself the wrong question.
Yeah.
Why am I not feeling so amazing?
What can we do?
Exactly.
With
what
this
can I do
right now? And this
how
is what we need to play
can
with.
I feel better?
Yeah.
How can I feel slight better? It's just one step. How can I take one step up? You're not asking how can I win the league.
Yeah.
It's one question. It's disempowering. Like, empower yourself. What can I do just to win the day? And that's basically what it comes down to.
So I've really... This is us back to our best again when we're chatting together. It's all over the place and crazy. But what we'll always try and do with these is bring it back and have some conclusion.
That's what you're here for, Mikey.
You're
here to bring some order to the chaos. Mate, you live in chaos, so you can see the chaos and just bring it back. So
I'm built for it. But this is my lesson, my life planning, is we've spoke about two things there. People around us and what we kind of would like from them or what we need from them in that moment of of adversity and chaos. And the same again with ourselves. What is your biggest lessons? And if you could split it in them two ways, from other people, what you'd want from them, and from yourself, what have you learnt the most about going through all that?
Biggest thing I learned from myself is that I can overcome anything, and I fully believe that. Like, having gone through what I went through, again, and people go through a lot worse, but again, it's all relative, isn't it? So again, it's not like
your worst day is your worst day.
100%. That's the thing for me. It's like, I'm not doing people to listen to this thinking something exceptionally traumatic happened, and like people have had a lot worse, but it's relative. And at that moment in time, that is probably the worst I've ever felt in my entire life.
It's not worth comparing
no,
either,
it's not
is
at all.
it?
But having gone through that now and come through the side and learnt what I've learned, I now back myself to know I can overcome that. And again, understanding the fact of all I've got to do is just win the day.
Yeah.
And this is what I talk about in schools. If you can't win the day, just win the next hour. If you can't win the next hour, just win the next minute, and do what you need to do. Just do that. I now understand the power of naps for me.
Yeah.
Like, sleep is an important thing for me. Just to turn off, just for 10 minutes, just 10-minute nap, fully clothed. But it's not even like, for me, it's not even napping. It's almost like a meditative state. But just doing that, turning off from the world, allows me to get a fresh thing and basically keep up my routines. So again, talk about stories, like the wise man that built his house on the rock. I'm sure I've mentioned this on a podcast before about habits and routines. But for me, it really made me realise, because COVID made me realise, I probably got the C-bomb there, probably get this podcast banned now. During the pandemic, I'll get you to bleep that out. During the pandemic, I realised that my habits and routines were, especially the first one, were built on sand. So my life very easily kind of crumbled, and I lost my structure and my routine. This time around, I realised I'd actually built my house on rocks. My foundations were really strong, so that when the winds of life were just battering me, like, I actually stood firm. And that for me is my whole point of why I told my clients about me struggling, was that actually it was my habits and my routines that actually stabilised the whole ship. Because if you don't have that, you don't have anything.
Yeah.
Because when you're going through that adversity, you just need something just to hold you, whatever that is. Even if it's just reading a book, whether it's listening to your favourite playlist, or just listen to a funny video, just something. You've got to have something each day that just sets you up and gets you in that frame of mind to just give you that bit of hope that it will get better again.
Yeah.
And again, when you're reading, you don't have to be reading to, again, necessarily be learning to get super smart. You're just doing it as part of that habit, because you know that when you're feeling really good, you did it and it helped. So again, why would you not do it when you're feeling bad?
Yeah.
And that's also the thing. When you're feeling good, you're doing all these things. Then when you're feeling bad, you stop doing them.
Yeah.
But then asking yourself the question, well, when I was feeling good, what kind of stuff was I doing? And you may not feel like doing 9 out of the 10 things, but what's that one thing that you were doing that could help? And it could be meditating, reading, eating healthy food, because maybe you've realised you've actually been eating a load of crap. Okay, well, get yourself back to eating healthy again. Maybe it's going to the gym, you haven't been to the gym. Maybe that you used to every Thursday go play football with your mates, but you don't do that anymore. Whatever it is, just ask yourself, well, what have I stopped doing? Like, because before I was in a really good headspace and I was doing all these things, now I'm doing none of them. Well, is that a coincidence? Probably not. And again, maybe, like we said earlier on, you're not trying to go from rock bottom to superstar again, but what's 1 or 2 things that you can do from that list?
Yeah.
So again, for myself personally, what I learned was have habits and routines, and backing myself to know that I'll come through it all. And what I learned from other people is that in life, you can't control other people and how they are going to respond to their issues. Meaning that...
And what they're going to project
onto you. And for a long time, I tried to figure things out, tried to get inside, like, how has this happened? It's not my business. So it's none of your business what other people are going through. If it's affecting you, you've got to focus on yourself, because you worrying about the what ifs, the whys, it's wasted energy. And I spent a lot of my time when I was struggling there trying to figure out, well, why has this happened? It's happened. Yeah. It is what it is. That's good saying. It is what it is. What can I do? And when I started to realise that, and I put my energy back into me rather than this is not fair, blah, blah, blah. Because, yeah, I talk about that victim mindset. And again, it was very easy for me to get into that victim mindset because it wasn't fair and I did do nothing wrong. And ultimately, I had to take the moral high ground, but that still doesn't make it any easier. So, again, it's just understanding that getting good people around you is paramount. Like, only select few, literally only you two. So, people seem to think about loads of friends. I don't. I genuinely do not have lots of friends, and I'll keep it that way. To get into my circle, it takes a lot.
Yeah. Because
I don't want to open up to anybody, because I've got a lot of information that's going to help people. I'm not going to give my stuff away. I'm not going to help raise people up that don't care and are going to piss me off and mug me off. And why would I do that?
It's a lot of energy expenditure, isn't it?
Like, I know what I can bring to people's lives.
Yeah.
So for you to come into my circle, what are you bringing to me? Because I know what I can bring. Like, I know I've got a lot of stuff I can help you. I can help change your life.
Yeah.
What are you bringing to me? And that's the thing. You bring lots of to my life, and then what do we bring back?
Amen, brother.
That's
symbiotic.
That's the whole point of this. I know sometimes you're going to be asking a lot from me, but then other times I might ask a lot from you. But it kind of works both ways. There's no thing there. We're both on the same page.
Authentic and honest discussion, and we know we've got that relationship and that bond that you can have that with.
And that for me,
get the chocolates out.
Yeah, but that's that thing for me. It's just highlighted that you don't need lots of repeat friends, because where's that from me the other day? someone said to me, like, oh, how many friends you got? Because it's talking about friendship groups, or whatever the hell it was. It was actually Katie's sister. And he turned to me and said, how many friends you got? And I went, about 3. Anna says, I've got a lot of acquaintances.
Yeah.
But for me now to say that I'm a friend with someone, that takes a lot.
100%.
Because I don't have many friends, but I've got a lot of acquaintances. And then people are like, oh, what's the difference? An acquaintance is someone I can talk to, and I've got nothing, no ill towards them. They're brilliant. I'll again go out for food with them, go for food with them, have a chat. But a friend is if my back's against the wall, and I really need someone, like, and I'm literally like, there's a gun to my head. I've got to make this phone call. Like, who wants to be a millionaire? Like, final question, £1 million call. I'm going to call. Are they going to answer and give me the correct answer? Like 2 people, 3 people. That's it.
And it's one of those phone calls. If I saw your name pop up, I'd trust it was important, because you don't like use that all the time.
When have I ever called you?
Exactly.
So if I was calling you, you know
it'd be like,
major.
oh, this guy needs it right now. Because then people do get so complacent, and they'll just use them energy points all the time, and it becomes really flippant. I'll just get them on board.
It's the boy that cried wolf, really.
Yeah,
like, it's like if I Mike got a massive problem, and it's not a massive problem, then when I do have a massive problem, I'm like, mate, come on, like.
Yeah.
The boy that cried wolf, and I don't think people really realise this. And that's me. It's just analysing your friendship circle. Again, you have to get rid of friends. I'm not saying get rid of them, but just, do you really class them as friends, or are they just acquaintances? And you can have both. There's nothing wrong with that. Like, genuinely, like, I love spending time with people. There's no issue with that at all. But for actual friendship, not that many people. I keep my circle extremely close. And the reason is because I've been hurt so many times before, where I've given so much time, energy, and effort to people, and it's not reciprocated, and then it ends up coming back and biting me. And there's a real interesting thing that this might help some listeners as well. I can't remember where I heard it, but it was talking about karma. Basically, a lot of times in life, you try and help people that are struggling with some stuff. And what you're doing is, they've got some karma coming their way. And by you stepping in front of that, you then get hit with the karma.
Yeah, that's interesting.
So sometimes,
where have you heard that?
I think I heard it on a podcast, yeah. And again, I've not really looked into it, but I was like, that makes sense to me, because they've got something coming their way. And if you try and stop that from happening...
Become their saviour.
Exactly. And you have to do it time and time again. You're basically enabling them to carry on. It's like, no, they've cause and effect. So they've given this cause, the effect. So if they've done something bad, they've got that coming back. If you keep trying to save them, what's going to happen is you're getting in the way of it.
A little bit, try and link this episode, the one you did with Jamie Booth on alcoholism. Fantastic episode.
That has helped. I spoke to Jim about this the other day, actually. Mate. That has helped. Oh, mate, something else happened as well. I'm going to tell you in a second.
Oh, mate, okay.
I think I told you a bit about it yesterday. But that episode, the alcohol one, it's helped more people than anyone.
It's crazy power. That was one where we all left and we were like, I think we need a minute.
Yeah. And then, so hold what you were going to say as well, because then on the back of that, I can't remember if I told you this on the radio yesterday, but apparently down south somewhere, they use one of the old episodes before you were a videographer. So one of the old ones, mate. They're using that for teacher training or some sort of training about the importance of talking about mental health.
Wow,
and I'm just like, wow, like that's something I did 2.5 years ago, and that is bizarre.
It makes you feel, when you're doing a podcast, do your best in every episode, because you never know when it's going to come back round.
But it goes back to intentions. So the guy, again, Stu Ward's the podcast. I can't remember what the name of the episode was, but Stu Ward's was the episode, and it was a mutual friend that hooks up Rachel, my tattoo artist. So again, Raven Tattoos, brilliant tattoo artist. So she basically said, my mate Stuart, he likes his mental health, have a chat with him. So we met at McDonald's. I don't think I've told you this story. We met at McDonald's. So 2 guys never met before, never ever met. Started talking at McDonald's about mental health, literally just completely open and honestly. 2 guys being completely intentional and just open and honest. Talking about mental health. There for about 30, 40 minutes. And then the lady working at McDonald's stopped what she was doing, walked over and said, I can't help but overhear you guys talk about mental health. And then she started talking about her mental health and her kids' struggles with mental health. And then because he works in the education system, he was then able to help her kids.
Dude.
So not only have me and him talking helped people, it's then helped her, and then it helped her kids.
Emanates.
Genuinely, it helped because she reached out.
Dude.
And then we then do this podcast. And again, great podcast, fantastic energy.
Yeah.
And then 3 years down the line, we've been told that actually, and the way that came about, basically someone recognised his voice.
That's hilarious.
How
That's a
story.
great story.
It was before video.
Awesome.
And he told me
man.
yesterday, he told me, and the goose when he told me, I've never experienced anything like it, because as you said, I do this. Again, this podcast costs me money, but I do it because it's the right thing to do, and it's here to help people. My intentions are always good. That's why I love doing it, because again, it's good energy. I love doing it. I get to meet some incredible people, and I know that each episode, hopefully at least one person takes some value from it. But to know that there's been more than one person from the alcohol.
It's a great timestamp, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a great timestamp of where you're at in that part of your life, and people can go back to where they needed to be in that part of your life too.
And it's interesting as well, because those earlier episodes, when people say they start the podcast from the beginning, I'm just like, oh God, don't.
Yeah.
I'm like how much better I am now at talking, communication.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, oh my God, you listen to the start. And that was one of those earlier episodes. So again, the quality probably wouldn't have been that great, but it's not about that. It's about the message.
I've had
what's
it
in there.
fairly recent because I stopped doing my podcast, and that was, again, a needs must. I couldn't put my energy into that while I was trying to get through what I'm going through, but going to start it up again soon, which I'm looking forward to. But yeah, somebody messaged me the other day and was like, you don't understand how much this episode helped me. I was like, oh, which one? Thinking it'd be one of the latest ones, and it was number 9.
It's always the last. It's all the late ones. And then you're thinking,
yeah.
oh, especially when it's like the lower like digit numbers. I'm thinking,
yeah,
oh my
it's hilarious.
God. But it helped them, and that's isn't that the cool thing? Because
audio quality.
We hold it to a standard of like,
yeah.
oh, it's gonna be crappy. Like I didn't really know what to talk about, but. Again, you don't know what people need on the journey. It's so interesting.
Quite cool to think, though, if we do this for another 5, 10, whatever years, and the quality is always going to be really consistent from a certain episode. So when they go back to number 90, when we're on 900, then we're going to feel a bit more comfortable about that.
Yeah, but I think it's, like when you're doing podcast anyway, it's like finding your voice in it. Like you don't know what you're doing, and then you kind of fall into it.
We've hit a good path here.
Again, this has been a great 40 minutes of just rambling like we always do. But again, hopefully there's been a lot of value. Don't forget, if you take any value from today's episode, don't forget to like and share it with a friend. Mikey, where can people find out more about you?
Just go for Rhythmical Mike for a minute. I'll see you there.
Yeah, Rhythmical Mike again. Okay. I'll get Mikey to put the links at the bottom of the screen. And don't forget for myself, Daniel_James_coaching. Until next time, take it easy.